Suddenly, a system screen flashes announcing that the scenario's protagonist, Charles Einhart, has been found. Right then, our MC confronts the blonde man in the middle of the desert, calling him out for a fight. Charles, however, replies that this is completely reckless on our protagonist's part. With a smirk, Attila retorts, telling him to call it courage instead. The original hero then declares he will defeat him and follow the path of the sovereign. Attila braces himself for the fight, the reincarnated author against the world's strongest warrior. With that, the two charge toward each other at unbelievable speed. The clash of their powers is so intense that blue and orange sparks erupt in every direction. Their colliding auras create a shockwave that shatters the ground around them. Immediately after, a colossal explosion of blue and orange energy rockets into the heavens from the force of the impact. Taking advantage of the smoke, our protagonist leaps into a spin, preparing a powerful attack against his opponent. Yet the original hero remains completely unfazed by the strike coming his way. Attila's attack descends with full force, carving a massive crater into the ground. Charles, however, narrowly dodges by leaping backward at the very last second. With a glowing eye, the blonde man states he has already committed our protagonist's move to memory. Charles then raises his gleaming sword, preparing a devastating aerial assault. Seeing this, Attila is shocked to witness a strike identical to his own coming right at him. The original hero then unleashes a wave of blue energy that sends our MC flying. The impact hurls our protagonist backward, leaving several marks across his body. He slams violently into the ground, creating a small crater from the force. Even injured, our hero rises to his feet, facing his opponent with determination. But Charles is already hovering above him, ready to deliver another powerful blow. The attack lands true, and Attila cries out as he's pinned against the ground. Desperation and surprise at his adversary's strength are etched across his face. The blonde man then lunges forward with a spinning slash, creating a whirlwind of energy. Charles' blade connects with our protagonist's shoulder, causing a serious injury. Up close, the damage from the strike on our hero's body is clear. Moments later, the energy sword pierces Attila's chest, and he gasps from the impact. As the clash of two worlds reaches its conclusion, Charles declares that this is the end. And so, the original hero prepares to deliver the final blow against our MC. The final strike lands squarely, and our protagonist cries out from the impact. Charles then unleashes a powerful attack that carves a gigantic trench across the land. An explosion follows, and text on the screen announces the awakening of a new power. From our MC's body, a wave of dark energy spreads across the entire battlefield. Though covered in injuries, the protagonist sits on the ground with a serene expression. A red liquid trickles from his eyes, and he appears to be in a deep trance. At that moment, his eye glows intensely, signaling a profound change within him. Suddenly, the scene shifts, and we see a man asking a Mr. Sato Shota to sign a contract. It's here we discover that in his past life, our MC was a novelist named Sato Shota. He was the author of the heroic saga of the Sovereign, a work spanning 400 chapters. The young writer is ecstatic, as signing this contract means his work will become a game. All his hard work and the struggles he endured would finally be rewarded. With a hand trembling with joy, he prepares to put pen to paper. The signature is finally on the page, sealing the contract for the game's production. He believed a bright future awaited him, but instead he awakens confused, back in the fight. Next, he finds himself falling from a building, wondering why this is happening. Screaming in despair, our protagonist plummets from a towering skyscraper. From above, the sheer height of the fall is terrifying as he hurtles toward the ground. A mysterious voice remarks that he doesn't understand what's going on, leaving the writer bewildered. It was the man from the contract, watching from the building's edge, telling him not to take it personally. With a chilling smile, the side character says this is for Sato Shota's own good. Our MC desperately begs for help, thinking this man is incredibly dangerous. The man in the suit responds directly to his thought, calling it a terrible thing to say. Startled, the author wonders if he accidentally spoke his thoughts aloud. But the man reveals a bizarre face, explaining he simply read his mind. Completely terrified, the writer realizes this creature is not human. The evil being then prepares to stomp on our protagonist's hand. Without a shred of mercy, the side character crushes the writer's fingers under his foot. Screaming in agony and rage, Sato Shota finally loses his grip on the building's edge. As his hand slips, he falls silent, accepting his fate. Filled with hatred, the writer wonders if this is some sick joke, if this is truly the end of his life. While falling, he laments his unrewarded efforts and his unfinished novel, wishing for more. Suddenly, he clenches his fist, unleashing a powerful reddish energy. Shouting his desire to live longer, his eyes flare and a fiery aura engulfs him. In that instant, his eyes change to a deep purple, signaling his transformation. The protagonist then punches the air with all his might, creating a massive explosion of flames. The wave of fire expands in all directions, incinerating everything in its path. This immense power consumes an entire building in a giant fireball. Floating amidst the destruction, the author questions what this is, and if he caused it himself. From high above, the city is scarred by a huge crater, with fires raging all around. The side character appears, shocked, and asks if he possesses the authority of savagery. With his hand glowing purple, the evil being moves in to capture our protagonist. The man in the suit then forcefully grabs the writer by the neck in mid-air. Even while being choked, the protagonist exclaims how wonderful this power feels. The side character then declares that with this power, he will experience a new life. With a bizarre grin, the evil being reveals that he will now live in the very world he created. He then releases him, saying they'll meet again in the future. With that, our MC is hurled into a dark portal as the side character calls out his name. He flies through the portal and lands hard on the ground just as a volcano erupts. Gasping for air, the protagonist tries to make sense of what just happened. As he gets up and looks around, he realizes he's in a completely different world. A system screen immediately appears, welcoming him to the world of the heroic saga of the Sovereign. Our MC is stunned to realize he is now inside his own novel. Confused, turns trying to process this unbelievable revelation. Suddenly, a scream pierces the air, and he sees a side character running from a giant bear. Our protagonist is terrified by the bizarre scene unfolding right before his eyes. The bear rears up its huge claws ready to strike the poor man. Despite his fear, he resolves that he has no intention of being taken down in this place. With that resolve, he frantically searches for anything he can use as a weapon. As luck would have it, he spots an axe on the ground, perfect for the situation. Without a second thought, he snatches the axe from the ground to defend himself. With the weapon in hand, our protagonist charges toward the giant beast. The bear's eyes glow red as it roars, ready to devour him. Attila lets out a yell and swings the axe with all his might. In a flash, he lands a direct hit. The bear doesn't even have time to react. The impact is so powerful that the animal is launched high into the air. The side character stands in shock while our MC himself wonders what just happened. With the beast defeated, the protagonist examines himself, trying to comprehend his newfound strength. In that moment, he's startled to see his body is now incredibly muscular. After being pushed from a building by a mysterious man, he had been reincarnated. As a result, he ended up in the world of the novel he himself had written and published. On top of that, his body had evolved to the level of a puman, making him vastly stronger. Astonished, he notices his perfectly sculpted biceps, practically gleaming with power. Next, his eyes fall on his thick, well-defined chest, which wasn't there before. Finally, he's stunned to find he now has rock-hard abs. He questions the sudden appearance of all these bulging muscles on his body. To top it all off, the protagonist realizes his senses have also been transformed. Standing in the middle of the forest, he feels his senses are sharper than ever before. His keen sense of smell picks up a familiar scent approaching. It was the same beastly odor he smelled before defeating the first bear. And to make matters worse this time, more than one was closing in on him. Realizing he's severely outnumbered, he decides to get out of there as fast as possible. But as he runs, a scream of panic rings out and an arrow zips right past him. Our protagonist is startled by both the scream and the surprise attack that nearly hit him. Looking toward the sound, he sees the ground littered with the bodies of several side characters. Near them, a waifu mourns her companions, lost to 4 massive bears. The girl watches helplessly as the beasts feast on her fallen friends. While trying to sneak away, she accidentally steps on a dry twig, and the sound cracks through the silence. Hearing the noise, the girl panics, knowing she has drawn the monster's attention. Immediately, one of the bears whips around and roars furiously at the poor young woman. The bear lunges with its claws extended, and the girl screams, stumbling backward in fear. With an axe in hand, she faces the giant beast, thinking this is the end. Gritting her teeth, the waifu despairs, not wanting her life to end yet. But suddenly, Attila appears, his fist glowing as he readies a powerful punch. He lands a devastatingly fast blow right on the bear's face. The force of the impact is so immense that the beast is sent spinning through the air. Our MC, shocked by his own insane strength, asks if the girl is alright. With tears in her eyes, the young woman asks in disbelief if he is really Attila. He stares at her, confused, as the waifu repeats his name, unable to believe her eyes. She mentions they were told Attila was gone, then yells for him to look behind him. The other bears seize the opportunity, charging furiously toward our protagonist. He whirls around to face the 3 monsters, wondering how he'll handle all of them. The girl screams for him not to fight, insisting he can't win against 3 of them alone. With a dark smile, the protagonist questions, "Can't I really?" The remaining beasts then roar, their red eyes blazing, ready to attack. A confident grin spreads across his face as he says, "That just makes me want to see if it's true." Attila then slams his fist into the ground, creating a shockwave that kicks up a cloud of dust. In that instant, he charges forward, landing a powerful punch on the first bear. A mighty uppercut sends the beast flying, and he loudly counts the first takedown. Without missing a beat, our protagonist leaps into the air, preparing an attack for the next one. He then plummets toward the second monster, which has no chance to escape. The blow lands squarely, and our MC announces the count for the second defeated bear. Meanwhile, the last remaining beast gets to its feet, ready to attack the protagonist. But he's faster at landing a direct punch on the last animal's snout. The impact sends the monster reeling, leaving the waifu stunned by the scene. Counting to 3, he finishes off the third bear, which never had a chance to retaliate. After that, our protagonist stomps hard on the ground, grabbing the axe once more. With the weapon in hand, he prepares to face the last bear still standing. Making an impressive leap, he soars to the final beast, ready to strike. With a brilliant and powerful slash, he finishes the last bear, ending the fight. The final blow is so overwhelming that the last bear is completely devastated. The girl is left utterly speechless by the absurd strength our protagonist has just shown. Following this, a red mist descends from the sky, marking the end of the battle against the beasts. A moment later, the last animal's lifeless body crashes violently to the ground. Our MC then lands on his knees, striking a heroic pose after the fight. He turns to the young woman and asks, "Fu in the world is this Attila you keep talking about?" Suddenly, the waifu runs and embraces him tightly, leaving our protagonist frozen in surprise. Crying with happiness, the girl says she always believed he would make it back alive. His face turning bright red, our protagonist is incredibly embarrassed by her hug. She then invites him back to the village, while he continues to wonder about this Attila. At that moment, a system screen materializes, displaying the character profile for Attila. Like water filling an empty glass, the memories of the original Attila flood his mind. Everything is revealed, from his distant past to his final moments before his end. After receiving the memories, our protagonist's entire demeanor changes. He learns that the original Attila was the victim of a conspiracy during a sacred ritual. In his memory, he sees the man responsible for the plot, wearing a sinister smile. Our MC then realizes he's been reincarnated as a barbarian side character, lamenting that he's not the protagonist. The waifu approaches, asking what's wrong, but he brushes it off, saying everything is fine. With a look of determination, our hero begins to analyze the situation he has found himself in. He then notices the girl's leg is injured and bleeding badly. Turning to her, he decides to carry her back to the village, all while searching for an escape from this world. The young woman warns him it's 20 kilometers away, but he insists he can't just leave her there. So, with the waifu on his back, he prepares to sprint to the village as fast as possible. He takes off at an incredible speed, causing the girl to scream in fright at the sudden movement. With his new strength, he effortlessly leaps between cliffs and trees. During one leap, he even manages to snatch a piece of fruit from a tree mid-air. Landing gracefully, he continues his high-speed run through the dense forest. As he runs, he takes a bite of the fruit, while the girl complains about the bumpy ride. Our protagonist is amazed by the taste and exclaims how delicious the fruit is. He then offers a piece to the waifu, but she refuses, clearly irritated with the situation. Finally, they reach the settlement of the Black Wolf tribe, a rustic and untamed place. The villagers are shocked, wondering how Attila could have returned from the other side. Standing among them, our MC is impressed by the looks of admiration on their faces. He then recalls the drafts and the entire world he imagined for his story. And now, he is witnessing the world of the Black Wolf tribe come to life right before his eyes. Seeing the joy of the residents, he feels this is the greatest reward an author could ask for. Suddenly, a heavy footstep makes the ground tremble, catching everyone's attention. The crowd parts as a giant, intimidating man walks toward our MC. Our protagonist is surprised and a bit intimidated by the man's imposing presence. The large man approaches and booms Attila's name in a powerful voice. From his aura alone, our hero recognizes him as the original Attila's father, a legendary warrior. Munzuk, the chief of the Black Wolf tribe, looks at his son with a serious expression. He then asks if our protagonist has anything to say to everyone present. Caught off guard, our protagonist stammers that he has finally returned home. Without warning, his father pulls him into a bear hug so tight it nearly breaks our MC's bones. Crying with emotion, the father welcomes back the son he thought was gone forever. Our protagonist is left completely stunned by this powerful display of affection. Munzuk says he came back to life just as the seer foretold, all while our hero is nearly crushed. An elder comments that the legend of the Black Wolf is true, noting how happy our MC's father is. To celebrate, the chief announces a grand feast, an idea that excites our protagonist. At night, the entire tribe gathers around a bonfire to celebrate Attila's return. Eating heartily, the protagonist savors the food, saying he could eat like this forever. A villager then comes over and offers a drink to our MC, who gladly accepts. He watches the other tribe members celebrating with immense joy and energy. In the midst of the party, one of the men begins to pound on a giant drum with great force. Others join in, creating a powerful rhythmic beat for the celebration. A caption explains their dance represents the legend of the great martial god, King. The waifu begins to dance as the story tells of how the king was taken down by his enemies. But the legend continues, saying he miraculously managed to return from the world of the fallen. With an axe in hand, the girl continues her dance, performing the legend for everyone. With a serious expression, the young woman continues the dance of the legend, her axe in hand. She then spins with the axe, creating a powerful and elegant dance move. The girl continues her agile and impressive movements in front of the entire tribe. The sweat and concentration on her face show the dedication she puts into the dance. The legend then tells of a savior who protected the village from a great disaster. As the performance ends, all the tribe members erupt in joyful celebration. Our protagonist is impressed by the infectious energy of these people. Sitting alone, he starts to reflect on everything that has happened since he arrived in this world. If this is truly the world of his novel, there's only one way out: the fairy kingdom. It was the nation of the strongest mages, and the place where he would have logically placed an exit. Chewing on a piece of meat, our MC looks determined to find this place. Just then, a man approaches and comments that he heard he defeated 4 bears. It was Blida, an elite warrior, who tells Attila it wasn't a bad showing at all. He then reveals that this feat has earned our protagonist a place among the elite warriors. Our hero thanks the man for the recognition of his strength. Being an elite warrior is the highest honor in the tribe and a prerequisite for becoming chief. For this reason, Blida gathers everyone and proposes a toast to celebrate the achievement. But Attila knows this toast is merely a pretext to drag him into a power struggle. As he lifts his mug, our protagonist detects a strange scent coming from the drink. Blida then asks why he isn't drinking, and in that moment, Attila realizes this is the man who took down the original With this chilling discovery, our protagonist slams the mug in the ground in a fit of rage. He then rises to his feet and challenges the elite warrior to a fight, no more games. The side character laughs, remarking that he's learned some amusing lines after being away for so long. Bleeda warns our MC not to get arrogant because of the tricks he used to come back. With a sinister smile, he says the party has just begun and tells him to enjoy the night. Our protagonist shouts for him to wait, but the warrior bids him farewell and leaves with his men. Our hero simply watches Bleeda's group retreat into the darkness of the forest. Attila understands that he backed down because Bleeda only engages in battles he is certain to win. He concludes that his enemy misjudged his strength and regrets that he didn't try to take him out again. Suddenly, a young boy approaches, proudly showing the chief that he hunted a rabbit all by himself. Our protagonist watches the scene with a pensive expression on his face. The chief congratulates the boy, telling he'll become a great warrior. We see just how kind Chief Manzuk is to the children of the tribe who deeply admire him. Our hero thinks that the chief is the complete opposite of his brother Bleeda, warm and bright like the sun. He reflects that having never had a father, he doesn't know how to act around the tribe chief. Attila wonders if he had a father, would he have been praised in the same way as the boy? All of a sudden, Manzuk calls to him and beckons him over, surprising our MC. The chief says he has something very special to give his son. He then holds up a golden belt that gleams brightly in the dark of the night. It was the mark of an elite warrior, given to one who defeats 3 bears, and his father asks if he likes it. Manzuk then hands the belt to the protagonist, urging him to put it on immediately. However, our hero has no clue how to tie this kind of belt. Completely flustered, he gets all tangled up in the belt, unsure of what to do. Seeing this, his father asks what's wrong, and Attila quickly invents an excuse about injuring his hand. With a smile, the chief offers to tie the belt for him, since his hand is hurt. Our protagonist is completely bewildered by the chief's sudden kind gesture. As he ties the belt, Manzuk remarks that it reminds him of when they first met. With the belt perfectly fastened, the father announces that the job is finally done. He then proudly comments on how much Attila has grown and how hard he has worked to get here. Touched by his words, our protagonist simply thanks him for the kindness and the praise. Manzuk then playfully ruffles his hair, making our protagonist feel a bit awkward. The chief playfully shakes him, asking for more enthusiasm, but our MC insists it's all just embarrassing. Manzuk then bellows that earning a golden belt at 16 is an unbelievable achievement. The other tribe members agree, shouting for him to celebrate this great accomplishment. In his thoughts, our hero admits that he didn't achieve this through his own efforts. But even so, a small smile appears on his face as he acknowledges that deep down, he was very happy. With that, Manzuk raises his mug and proposes a toast to the warriors of the tribe. All the other villagers raise their mugs and toast with great excitement. While celebrating, the protagonist thinks that this life as a barbarian might not be so bad after all. But suddenly, a scream of pain from one of the members interrupts the festivities. Instantly alert, our protagonist turns to see what happened. He sees Manzuk collapsing to the ground, his face contorted in agony. Desperate, our hero shouts his father's name, not understanding what's happening. With reddened eyes and sharp teeth, Manzuk roars like an uncontrollable beast. Attila holds him, wondering if the drink was poisoned, though he detects no such scent. He tries to call out to his father, but the chief only roars in response, not recognizing him. The tribe's leader continues to roar wildly, his appearance becoming quite terrifying. In that moment, our protagonist's eye glows as he realizes something crucial. A system screen appears, revealing that Attila's father is under a berserk effect. Completely out of control, the chief begins to attack the other members present. Filled with rage, our MC finally understands that Bleeda's target was never just Manzuk. The other villagers scream in terror as their own leader turns on them. The plan was to eliminate all of Manzuk's admirers by using the very chief who loves them. With a face full of hatred, our protagonist declares that this is completely unforgivable. Meanwhile, the tribe chief continues his rampage, attacking with uncontrolled fury. Shouting for his father to wake up, our protagonist tries to stop him with a powerful punch. But the chief catches the blow with his incredibly strong hand. Then, with astonishing strength, the father effortlessly flings Attila away. The impact is so violent that our MC cries out in pain as he's thrown backward. Lying on the ground, he realizes it's useless. The chief is in a state where he can't hear him. Angrily, our protagonist gets back up, thinking Bleeda can't possibly be serious. At that moment, the chief unleashes a wolf-like aura and roars with all his might. He then charges forward, delivering a devastating punch toward our protagonist. The blow carves a gigantic crater in the ground, kicking up a massive cloud of dust. Impressed, our hero realizes he can't stop him with his current level of strength. Meanwhile, the chief continues his assault, and the villagers scatter in desperation. In the midst of the chaos, a little boy sees his mother fall and cries out for her. He rushes to her side, begging her to get up as quickly as possible. But his mother tells him to go on without her, as she can't keep running. Suddenly, the berserker chief looms over them, ready to deliver a final blow. Desperate, the mother screams for her son to run and save himself. But the little boy refuses to flee, preparing to face the threat himself. With fierce determination, he shouts that he will protect his mother no matter what. The chief then lunges with a powerful strike aimed at the small boy. But our protagonist appears in a flash, blocking the attack and saving the child at the last second. With a smile, he praises the boy for his courage in facing the danger. Attila then yells for the others to get the two of them to safety while he handles the situation. The villagers obey, carrying the family away from the chaos to a safe place. With his hand glowing, our hero prepares to confront his out-of-control father. He charges forward and with great difficulty manages to catch the chief's punch. With a grin he says, "Gotcha," but knows that thinking he can stop Manzuk is naive. With his red eyes blazing, the tribe chief roars, displaying his immense strength. Our protagonist notes his father's incredible speed and stays on high alert. A swift blow grazes our protagonist's face, startling him. Bleeding from his ear, he winces in pain and braces for the next attack. The chief then lands a powerful punch to our MC's stomach, knocking the wind out of him. The impact sends our hero staggering backward, crashing hard onto the ground. With a bloody nose, he realizes he can no longer hold back in this fight. He gets up, determined, and grabs his father's arm with all his strength. Attila then concludes that the only option left is to fight with everything he has. With a look of pure resolve, our MC prepares to unleash his full power. The tribe chief roars, his red eyes blazing with fury and power. Manzuk lunges with a punch, but Attila narrowly manages to dodge the blow. However, he's immediately struck in the face by another attack, causing him to spit. Before he can recover, the protagonist takes another powerful punch straight to the stomach. The violent impact sends a wave of immense pain through him as he is thrown backward. Even injured, our hero retaliates with a rapid sequence of powerful punches. His attacks land on the chief's chest, creating flashes of light on impact. But to his dismay, he realizes his blows are having no effect whatsoever. With his fist glowing red, his father prepares to counterattack with even greater force. The fight intensifies and Attila finds himself completely overwhelmed by Manzuk's raw power. A final punch sends him crashing into the ground, creating a crater on impact. Lying at the bottom of the pit, he looks up at his father, who stares down with fury in his eyes. The other tribe members scream in terror at the brutal scene unfolding before them. Badly bruised, our protagonist coughs, struggling to catch his breath after the onslaught. Despite being out of breath and covered in injuries, he refuses to give up and glares at his opponent. He then remembers that a warrior fights to protect what is precious to them. Our protagonist knows his father would never intentionally harm his own tribe. In his thoughts, he concludes that if his father were in his shoes, he would protect them too. At that moment, a system screen materializes, activating his heroic strength ability. With the new ability active, our protagonist lets out a roar and charges at his father with everything he has. He then leaps into the air, ready to deliver a mighty blow against the tribe chief. Attila lands a devastating punch right on Manzuk's face, who clearly feels the impact. The blow is so forceful that one of the tribe chief's teeth is knocked out, but along with the tooth, a strange needle also flies out of our MC's father's mouth. From the impact of the punch, the tribe leader is thrown backward with incredible violence. The mysterious needle clatters to the ground, and our protagonist gasps for air after the powerful strike. The exertion causes him to lose his balance, nearly collapsing from exhaustion. His strength failing, he finally crumples to the ground, wondering if this is the end for him. The tribe chief then rises and stares at the fallen protagonist, who is unresponsive. With wide eyes, our protagonist is shocked by the scene unfolding before him. But suddenly, Manzuk looks around in confusion, wondering what on earth is going on. Seeing this, our protagonist realizes his father seems to have returned to his senses. A system screen appears, notifying that Manzuk has recovered from the berserk state. Surprised, he finally understands that his father is no longer under the curse's influence. He then glances at the needle on the ground and begins to piece the puzzle together. Attila wonders if the poison was hidden within the needle that was knocked loose. Worried, Manzuk rushes to his son's side, asking if he's alright after the fight. Still on the ground, our hero replies that, for the moment, he's okay. But suddenly, the tribe chief shouts Attila's name and collapses to the ground. After crying out his name, the tribe chief falls unconscious, sending everyone into a panic. Meanwhile, Blida and his men flee on horseback, distancing themselves from the chaos. A mysterious witch reveals that the berserk needle shouldn't have been dislodged by a simple headbutt. For some reason, however, the needle keeping Manzuk in his rampage was removed. Blida concludes this was only possible due to our MC's special power. With a smirk, he tells Attila to enjoy his moment as a savior while it lasts. His face contorted with rage, the villain declares that everything will end tomorrow. Far away, Blida's group arrives at the mouth of a dark, mysterious cave. Standing before the entrance, the elite warrior orders his men to go inside. With torches in hand, Blida and his followers cautiously enter the cavern. Suddenly, a terrifying roar echoes through the cave, and the men scream in fear. A giant beast roars, demanding they return what was stolen from it. It was a chained divine beast, crying out desperately for its child. The monster reveals itself as the calamity of the forest, the tribe's divine guardian. Blida then approaches, calling the beast by name with a serious and defiant gaze. But the beast only roars back, calling them all cowards for their actions. The villain then threatens to harm a small cub held in his henchman's arms. In the man's arms, we see the tiny cub of the divine beast, whimpering in fear. Desperate, the mother pleads with them to stop and not to hurt her little one. Blida then commands the beast to obey him and destroy the Black Wolf tribe. Trapped by the blackmail, divine beast roars in hatred and despair, powerless to act. Suddenly, our protagonist jolts awake in a room, recovering from the intense fight. He sits up in bed, noticing he's covered in bandages. With a hand on his head, he groans in pain, wondering if he passed out after the brawl. Looking around, he sees he is in a safe room, being well cared for by the tribe. Just then, he hears a voice and sees his father lying awake in the adjacent bed. Worried, our hero turns and asks if the tribe chief is okay. Manzuk replies that his body isn't moving right, but tells him not to worry. With a sad expression, the father says he heard everything and apologizes for what happened. But Attila shouts that it wasn't his fault, blaming that scoundrel Blida for orchestrating it all. The chief laments that, regardless, he failed to protect the villagers. Because of this, he declares he is no longer qualified to be the chief of the tribe. Our MC grows desperate, realizing this is exactly what Blida wanted to happen. But his father asks for his understanding, explaining that what he did was a grave and serious offense. Suddenly, he hears a commotion at the door and sees a crowd trying to push their way in. Without warning, the villagers burst into the room, accidentally knocking our protagonist over. Lying on the floor, our hero is shocked by the sudden invasion. One villager argues with another for suggesting they visit the chief with drinks. The argument continues, and both Attila and his father wear expressions of pure boredom. At that moment, the woman from before arrives, stating that thanks to him, everyone is safe. The waifu adds that they were protected by the chief in countless battles. She affirms that everyone knows how much he loves them, and that they trust him completely. The tribe chief listens in silence, his face a mask of pure emotion. With tears in her eyes, the girl asks him to trust in them as well. Deeply moved, our protagonist's father begins to weep in his bed at her words. The villagers then shout in unison that they will protect the Black Wolf tribe together. Crying with happiness, Manzuk thanks everyone for their support and trust. Our protagonist, still covered in bandages, watches the scene with a proud smile. But suddenly a villager runs in, panicked, bearing terrible news. He yells for everyone there to listen, stressing the gravity of the situation. With a look of terror, he announces that the calamity of the forest is attacking the village. Upon hearing this, our hero is left completely shocked and speechless. Outside, the entire village is engulfed in flames, being destroyed by the beast. Amidst the chaos, the divine beast roars in fury, destroying everything in its path. Legend says the beast once saved the tribe and was revered by all its people. Back in the room, the villager desperately repeats his warning to everyone present. He shouts once more that the calamity of the forest is attacking their village. Our protagonist remains frozen, unable to believe what he just heard. From his bed, the chief roars, furiously demanding to know what the man just said. In a swift movement, Manzuk leaps from his bed, startling everyone in the room. Attila then stands, declaring he will fight, but his father tries to stop him. The chief shouts that it's reckless, as a human cannot stand against a divine beast. Ignoring the warning, our protagonist borrows 2 axes from his father. With the weapons in hand, he promises to return them safely after the fight. With a serious look, the protagonist asks the chief to wait for him there. The father is left completely stunned by his son's determination to fight. Meanwhile, the divine beast continues its destructive rampage through the village. Arriving on the scene, a villager points to the beast amidst the chaos and destruction. Our protagonist is taken aback by the creature's colossal size. Suddenly, Bleda and his men appear, remarking that Attila is late for the party. With a smirk, the villain asks if he really thought he would wait for everyone to recover. His face contorted with rage, our protagonist shouts Bleda's name with pure hatred. The elite warrior mocks him, calling him knave just like his father. Losing his patience, our MC readies himself and challenges his enemy to a fight. Bleda praises his courage, calling him the reincarnation of the great martial god, King. But he reveals that his opponent is not him, and then calls forth the true threat. In that instant, a giant shadowy paw lunges toward our protagonist. With axes in hand, our hero prepares to defend himself from the blow. The divine beast then roars and, under Bleda's command, charges to attack the village. Attila is shocked, wondering why a divine creature would obey such a man. The villain explains that making an opponent kneel is actually quite simple. Holding the cub, he reveals you just have to take what is most precious to them. Our protagonist remains silent, processing the sheer evil of his enemy's plan. Bleda declares that the legendary beast has been reduced to this, stating that protecting something is a weakness. Angrily, Attila cuts him off, asking if he's finished with his final words. The elite warrior sneers, asking if those are our MC's last words instead. With that, Bleda orders the calamity of the forest to attack, with his men close behind. Its claws glowing blue, the beast charges with all its might toward the protagonist. Shouting, our hero prepares to counter the beast's attack with his axe. The two then rush toward each other, their powers set to collide. With axes in both hands, he struggles to block the giant paw of the white monster. Feeling the opponent's strength, our protagonist realizes how dire the situation is. He spins his axes, knowing that if he takes a direct hit, he'll be crushed. The beast gives no quarter, already preparing another powerful strike with its sharp claws. The impact of the blow sends our protagonist flying backward violently. He cries out in pain as he soars through the air, the force knocking his axes from his hands. A villager watches in shock at the destruction and chaos consuming the village. Attila thinks about the beast's speed and the impenetrable hardness of its body. Lying on the ground, he glares at the monster, wondering what he should do now. The creature then opens its jaws, revealing sharp fangs ready to devour him. Suddenly, a brilliant idea to defeat the giant beast flashes in the protagonist's mind. He remembers that while you can't cut a rock with a blade, you can drive a stake into it. The image of a nail being hammered into wood perfectly illustrates his plan. With that in mind, he decides if he can't cut it, he'll drive his weapon into it. He then grabs his other axe, planning to use one as a hammer and the other as a nail. Shouting with all his might, our protagonist charges toward the white monster. Making an impressive leap, he spins in the air with both axes in hand. The first axe flies true, embedding itself firmly in the divine beast's back. On impact, the creature roars in pain, but the blow isn't enough to stop it. Without wasting a moment, he readies his second axe for the final strike while still airborne. The furious beast lunges with glowing claws to finish off our hero. But he's faster, dodging the attack and landing on the monster's gigantic arm. With a quick and precise spin, he positions himself to strike the spot where the first axe is lodged. Our protagonist then leaps his axe poised for the devastating final blow. He then strikes the first axe with the second, driving it into the beast like a hammer. The impact forces the blade of the first axe deep into the divine creature's hide. A villager shouts in shock. He's driving an axe and with another axe. The brutal blow causes a grievous wound, and the beast gushes everywhere. The calamity of the forest roars in agony from the pain of the deep wound. Its strength failing, the giant creature finally collapses to the ground lifeless. At that moment, Bleeda's henchman tosses the beast cub into the air with a cry. The small cub runs and snuggles against its defeated mother on the ground. Furious, Bleeda curses the useless beast for being defeated so easily. He then orders his archers to fire their arrows at our protagonist. The men obey, losing a volley of arrows toward our hero. With his axes in hand, Attila prepares to defend against the surprise attack. He masterfully spins the weapons, deflecting every single arrow. The henchmen are stunned by his skill, calling him a monster. One of them yells for the others to retreat, but it's too late to escape. With a swift and brutal motion, our MC lunges forward, eliminating one of the men. He continues his assault, taking down all the other henchmen with his axes. In a matter of seconds, our protagonist has finished off all of Bleeda's men. Making a final leap, he lands ready for the decisive battle to come. With a determined gaze, he faces the villain and challenges him to a final showdown. Bleeda then raises his axe, unleashing a dark and incredibly powerful aura. With an axe in hand and hatred in his eyes, he accepts the protagonist's challenge. The two then face off in the middle of the battlefield, poised for their confrontation. The villagers murmur that they're just staring at each other, doing nothing. But Attila knows the battle may have already begun without them even realizing it. This was the final battle that would decide the fate of the entire Black Wolf tribe. The battle finally ignites as Bleeda charges forward with a heavy stomp. He then vanishes at an incredible speed, making our MC wonder if he disappeared. Suddenly, the villain appears in the air, ready to deliver a devastating blow from above. With a quick and precise slash, the elite warrior strikes the protagonist's shoulder. Attila cries out from the impact but manages to defend against the enemy's attack. Shocked by the blow, he wonders what kind of technique he just used. Without giving him a moment to breathe, Bleeda charges again with his insane speed. Our protagonist realizes he can't dodge the attack speeding toward him. On impact, drops of red spray across the battlefield. The villain then calls him a fool, asking if he really thought he could win with brute force. With a smirk, he says that unfortunately, he's quite used to dealing with that kind of strength. The fight intensifies and our protagonist begins to understand just how strong his opponent is. He continues to parry the rapid blows, but the pressure is becoming too much for him. With a new cut on his face, Attila complains that he doesn't even have time to swing his axe. Bleeda then compliments him for managing to defend so well against his barrage of attacks. But a dark look in his eyes indicates the fight is far from over. The villain then uses his speed to create distance and prepare his next move. His face etched with rage and covered in wounds, our protagonist remains on high alert. Bleeda then confidently shouts that he will be the sole victor of this battle. At that, he leaps into the air, spinning for a final attack against our hero. Our protagonist knows Bleeda is superior in technique and combat experience. But compared to Munzik's power, he feels the villain's attack isn't nearly as intimidating. With his eye glowing, he prepares to counterattack at the perfect moment. Using the handle of his axe, our MC lands a solid blow to the elite warrior's face. The force of the impact sends Bleeda flying backward with incredible violence. His nose bleeding, the villain is shocked by the power of the counterattack. The elite warrior then slams violently into the ground, completely unresponsive. The villagers erupt in cheers, shouting that Attila has won the battle against their enemy. With his axe in hand, our protagonist stares down at the fallen villain. Bleeda then begins to laugh, confusing our hero with his strange behavior. The protagonist then asks what could possibly be so funny in this situation. The villain replies that he was just thinking it was about time for the poison to take effect. With a malevolent grin, he reveals that his axe was coated in berserk poison. Bleeda then asks if he knows what happens when someone is cut by that weapon. Enraged, our MC realizes the trap and calls the elite warrior a scoundrel. The villain then reveals his final plan. Attila himself will be the one to destroy the tribe. Our protagonist feels the poison spreading through his body and begins to panic. He sees his blood changing color and realizes he's losing control. Up close, we see his eye changing color, signaling the impending transformation. The battle for the destiny of the Black Wolf tribe reaches its most critical juncture. As the poison takes effect, our protagonist screams in agony from the transformation. The villagers watch in terror, unable to understand what is happening. Bleeda then wishes for him to turn to a mindless beast and meet a miserable end. Suddenly, our protagonist feels his body heat up, and his eyes glow a bright yellow. But he hears a voice calling his name and sees the divine beast speaking to him. Shocked, he asks if the creature can talk, and it confirms that it can. The calamity of the forest explains that he is now closer to a beast than a human. With that, the beast opens its mouth and presents a mysterious object to our hero. Upon taking the object, our protagonist is astonished by what he now holds. It was the divine sword of the great martial god King, a legendary and powerful weapon. The beast reveals that the sword, named Mio, is bestowed upon the one who defeats it. With the weapon in his hands, our protagonist feels an immense power surging through his body. The calamity of the forest then encourages him to fight like a true warrior. She tells him to fight for those he must protect from all danger. A system screen displays the sword's stats detailing its powers and abilities. With his new weapon, our protagonist rises, ready to end this fight. The villagers are stunned by the change in the new aura of power radiating from our MC. Bleeda is terrified, wondering why he isn't transforming into a beast. Suddenly, Adila appears before him, exuding a dark aura with glowing red eyes. The villain is completely petrified by our protagonist's menacing presence. With a confident smile, the protagonist says it's time to settle the score. He then vanishes at an incredible speed, leaving the villain utterly shocked. Before Bleeda can even react, our MC reappears and lands a swift cut across his face. The elite warrior screams in pain as our protagonist continues his relentless assault. With agile movements, he delivers a flurry of cuts to the villain, who is powerless to defend himself. Bleeda yells that it's impossible as he is brutally attacked by our hero. The divine sword cuts deep into the enemy's shoulder, inflicting a severe wound. Bleeda is shocked to see the weapon is a dagger shrouded in a mysterious light. His face twisted with hatred, he recognizes the sword and screams its name, Mial. Our protagonist then unleashes the sword's full power, blasting out rays of purple energy. The final blow sends the villain flying, and he crashes violently to the ground. Defeated, Bleeda kneels on the ground, covered in blood and wounds. With a hand to his face, he laments that Attila was acknowledged by the divine beast. Bleeda then reflects on the unjust world where he was always compared to his brother. Since childhood, he lived in the shadow of his more talented older brother. Driven by a desire to catch up, he trained relentlessly until he was attacked by a bear. He sought to master the madness that made him spit to finally surpass his brother. But despite all his effort and training, he could never overcome him. His brother and Munzuk were renowned as the Wolf Brothers, and no one could defeat them. In a flashback, we see the two brothers fighting together in perfect harmony. Bleeda would complain that his brother always handled enemies on his own, never needing help. Even as he tried to keep pace, he could never quite catch up to his older brother. Suddenly, Munzuk is attacked by an enemy, and Bleeda is instantly on high alert. Desperate, he rushes to help his brother, who is in peril on the battlefield. But as he steps in front of the blow, he is brutally struck while protecting his brother. The blow gravely injures him, and Munzuk screams his name, horrified by the wound. After being injured protecting his brother, Bleeda awakens back at their camp. Munzuk stands silently with his back to him, not saying a single word. He demands to know why he can't participate in the next battle. Munzuk apologizes, but Bleeda doesn't understand the reason behind his brother's decision. His eye now injured, the older brother states that he can no longer fight in his condition. Instead of praise, he lost his place in the battle because of his injury. Just then, a messenger arrives announcing the enemy invasion has begun and they must depart. Bleeda realizes he was the only one who believed they were fighting together as brothers. Crying out in anguish, he says Munzuk could never understand his suffering and pain. To him, Munzuk and the Black Wolf tribe are the true villains of this story. For that reason, he screams that he will destroy everything and everyone without mercy. But a sharp pain shoots through his chest, and he clutches at his old wound. Our protagonist interrupts him, telling him to stop spouting whatever he wants. With a look of hatred, Attila yells for him to take responsibility for his actions. With his eyes glowing red, our MC declares he won't let someone like him harm anyone else. He then charges forward with a heavy stomp, ready to end the fight. With a battle cry, the protagonist lunges, delivering a powerful blow to the villain. Bleeda roars in fury as the two continue their brutal exchange of strikes. Our protagonist shouts as they trade blows with both weapons and fists. The battle becomes a frenzied clash as the two warriors fight with everything they have. In his final moments, Bleeda whispers his brother's name and collapses. His nose bleeding, he falls backward, defeated by our hero's power. He then reveals that he always knew his brother's actions were born from a kindness meant to protect him. But all he ever wanted was for Munzuk to invite him to fight alongside him, just like in the old days. With his last breath, Bleeda is gone. Our protagonist watches him in silence. With the battle concluded, the protagonist turns and surveys the battlefield. The villagers erupt in cheers, celebrating Attila's victory over the enemy. With the villain defeated, the battle ends and peace returns to the tribe. Following this, our MC decides to leave the village in search of the fairy kingdom. With a bag on his back, he bids farewell to everyone and prepares for his journey. One of the villagers laments his departure, saying with him they would be safe forever. But Chief Munzuk explains that, unfortunately, Attila cannot serve as the new chief. The other villagers protest, insisting he would be an excellent leader for the tribe. The discussion continues as everyone present argues in favor of our hero becoming the new chief. The chief then announces he will show everyone the reason behind his decision. The villagers are left completely bewildered by their leader's statement. Suddenly, Munzuk grabs his axe and prepares to attack the protagonist. In a swift motion, he charges and swings a powerful blow in his direction. Our MC is shocked, wondering why his father is attacking him like this. He manages to block the blow and stares at the chief, utterly confused. Angrily, he demands to know what he's doing, but Manzuk simply observes him. The father then praises his defense, calling it a splendid move. But he adds that the blow was still weak, with too many openings to exploit. Our protagonist remains silent, processing both the praise and the criticism from his father. The chief then reveals that he clearly possesses a great and special power, and the sword entrusted to him is proof that a grand destiny awaits. Manzuk then calls him by name, stating that his path is different from that of the tribe. He explains that people are truly tested when they confront the despair of their souls. The father laments that Blida lost the light in his soul because of that same despair. He then advises our hero to constantly train his mind, his body, and his soul. With a serious expression, the protagonist listens intently to his father's counsel. The chief then pleads with him not to lose the light of his soul, no matter what happens. Before he leaves, his father calls out to him, and our protagonist turns to hear one last request. With a worried look, Manzuk asks him to come back home immediately. Suddenly, the waifu appears, saying that this is a promise between them. Without warning, she embraces him and places a necklace around his neck, making him blush. His face turning bright red, our protagonist is incredibly embarrassed by the hug. She reveals that the necklace is an amulet crafted from the fang of the divine beast. Up close, we see the amulet glowing with a powerful protective aura. With a smile, the girl says the amulet will surely protect him on his journey. Our hero thanks her for the gift, holding it gently in his hands. But his father grabs him and pulls him away, while the waifu begs him not to go. From a distance, he waves goodbye to everyone in the tribe as they watch him depart. That night, he makes camp in the forest, roasting a piece of meat over the fire. As the meat cooks, he sits and waits patiently for it to be ready. He picks up the meat, admiring how delicious it looks after being roasted. With a smile, he prepares to enjoy the meal he so carefully prepared. But as he takes the first bite, a strange noise comes from the surrounding woods. He turns his head, sensing that someone is watching him from the darkness. With a look of annoyance, he turns to face the creature that has been following him. He then asks how long it plans to keep trailing him everywhere. Just then, the divine beast's cub emerges, its stomach rumbling with hunger. Our protagonist is surprised and repeats his question, unsure of what to do. He then continues his journey with the divine beast's cub as his new companion. The cub peeks out from behind a tree, timid about our protagonist's reaction. Annoyed, our hero tells the small animal to go back home immediately, but the cub just stares at him with its big, cute eyes not moving an inch. He insists that he can't take it with him and tells it to return to its nest. Suddenly, the cub starts to growl, leaving our protagonist completely confused. With no other choice, he offers a piece of meat to the animal and tells it to leave. The cub chomps down on the meat, and our protagonist tries to pull it back. But the creature refuses to let go, ending up licking his entire arm. Irritated by the scene, our hero shouts that the critter practically took his whole arm. He complains about the animal's wild behavior and decides to leave it behind. Suddenly, he hears a strange noise and turns to see what happened. The cub then spits something onto the ground, leaving our protagonist quite confused. Startled, he yells at the animal, telling it not to surprise him like that. The cub then offers him what it spat out, and our protagonist immediately refuses. Angrily, he sits down and the cub climbs into his lap, getting comfortable. The protagonist wonders why the animal is so attached to him all of a sudden. He then looks down at the cub sleeping in his lap and seems to understand. With a serene expression, he finally realizes the reason for the animal's devotion. He concludes that the cub smells its mother on the amulet he's wearing. And with this revelation, our hero's journey continues with a new companion by his side. He recalls Blida holding the cub, using it as a hostage to blackmail its mother. With a serious look, our protagonist reflects on how the divine beast fought to protect him. He then says he doesn't want to bring the little cub along on such a dangerous journey. With the cub in his lap, he contemplates how to handle this tricky situation. Suddenly, the cub wakes up and stands to guard our MC's sword. Attila smiles, remembering that this creature was a guardian beast, just like its mother. The next morning, the cub wakes up to find that our protagonist is gone. It runs frantically through the forest, desperately trying to find him. Following the tracks, the cub continues its search for its new, missing friend. Exhausted and sad, it slumps to the ground and begins to cry, missing him deeply. But suddenly, our protagonist appears, asking if it's looking for something. He explains that he can't give up the sword, but he will give it something else in return. Using the wrap from his arm, he ties a small bow around the cub's neck. With the bow on, the cub looks even more cute and adorable than before. Attila then readies himself to leave, announcing it's time to continue his journey. He warns that if the cub doesn't follow, he'll leave it behind without a second thought. With tears in its eyes, the little animal scrambles to keep up with our protagonist. And with this new friendship forged, the two set off together in search of the fairy kingdom. Their journey promises to be filled with adventure, danger, and many challenges ahead. The future of this world and the destiny of our hero are about to change forever. With the cub trotting at his heels, our protagonist continues his journey through the forest. The little animal follows him with joy and determination, refusing to give up the chase. Our hero then announces their next meal won't be until the next village they find. With that, he breaks into a run, and the cub energetically keeps pace. The two run together along a dirt road, surrounded by mountains and wilderness. Far away, a mysterious witch observes them through her magical crystal ball. With a smile, she remarks that a wild warrior who can break magic needles is quite interesting. She wonders where such a remarkable man has been hiding all this time. This was Beatrice Elizabeth, a powerful witch who has taken an interest in our protagonist. With a seductive gaze, she admits she's become quite intrigued by him and his powers. Suddenly, her bird screeches and flies off, startled by something in the sky. With the cub on his shoulder, our MC finally announces they've reached their destination. It was the first town they had encountered since leaving the Black Wolf tribe. Upon entering, he spots a beer sign and decides to stop for something to eat. The cub eagerly devours a small loaf of bread, making our protagonist a bit concerned. He tells the animal it probably shouldn't be eating that, but the cub pays him no mind. Just then, the waiter arrives with a plate piled high with bread for our protagonist. The plate is laden with warm, delicious loaves that seem to gleam. While eating one of the loaves, he asks the waiter if he's heard of the fairy kingdom, but the man replies that he's never heard of such a place, which our MC expected. He recalls that the fairy sanctuary was located in the North Sea of the Rudra continent. Sipping his beer, he regrets only writing that much in his novel with no further details. Angrily, he thinks that if he had known, he would have written about it in much greater detail. To reach it, he must traverse lands filled with giants, dragons, and other monsters. On top of that, he must overcome sinister beings, a thought that gives him a headache. Suddenly, a drunkard calls out to him, asking about this so-called fairy kingdom. The man then laughs, asking how old he is to still believe in fairy tales. With a serious expression, our protagonist simply observes the drunk man without a word. The man then shouts that there's no such thing as a fairy kingdom in this world. Laughing, he tells our hero to stop dreaming and face reality. With the cub on his shoulder, our MC replies that it's none of his business. Annoyed, the man yells at him to hurry up and get out of there. He then threatens to turn the cub into a meal if they don't leave right away. Furious at the threat, the cub bites down hard on the man's finger. Our protagonist says he's just a drunk and tells the little animal not to worry about it. Suddenly, another man kicks the drunkard away with a powerful and swift blow. It was Otto, the leader of the Kiri mercenary group, who looks at our hero with a grin. He then remarks that the drink tastes bad whenever that guy is around. The waiter is terrified by the scene and the imposing presence of the mercenary leader. He quickly approaches our protagonist, urging him to leave as fast as possible. The waiter reveals that the man is Otto the Ogre Blade, a dangerous mercenary. With a smile, our protagonist thinks to himself that this is an outlaw who used to be a knight. Otto refuses to answer, and our hero realizes he's looking for a fight no matter what. The mercenary then orders his men to attack the protagonist without mercy. With a glow in his eye, our MC readies himself for the fight against the mercenaries. In an instant, he takes down all of Otto's men with impressive speed. Their leader is left completely stunned, seeing his men defeated so easily. Kicking the bodies aside, he confronts our hero, demanding to know who the heck he is. With a confident smile, the protagonist introduces himself as the original author of the novel. He then cracks his knuckles, saying it's now his turn to attack the mercenary. Otto panics, begging the protagonist to wait just a moment. He then apologizes, and our hero says his actions were merely in self-defense. The waiter is terrified by the chaos that just erupted in his establishment. With a smile, our protagonist says he had no choice but to fight back. The man then thanks him and shows him a wanted poster featuring Otto's face. Our MC is surprised to learn that these men were wanted criminals. The waiter explains that the whole town has been having trouble with them for a long time. With red eyes, our protagonist asks why the poster specifies Alive only. The man reveals he heard rumors of an impending war and that they were being recruited. He continues, saying the army is short on soldiers and needs more bodies. He concludes that Baron Bertrand is gathering criminals to use as military forces. With a grin, our protagonist says that's excellent news for him. The waiter is horrified by his reaction, not understanding what he could possibly mean. At the local lord's manor, our MC presents himself along with the captured criminals. The Baron asks if he was the one who captured the bandits to trade them. This was Lord Bertrand, the man in charge of the town and soldier recruitment. Our protagonist confirms, stating he has come to collect the reward for their capture. The Baron grows irritated, demanding to know how he found out a war was about to start. With a smile, Attila replies that it's clear he is preparing for war. Annoyed, the local lord shouts, asking where he heard such an absurd rumor. Our protagonist mentions hearing they were gathering soldiers for a war in the east. He then comments that it's no wonder there are no bandits left in the village. The Baron is left surprised and speechless by our protagonist's shrewdness. Our MC then compliments the Lord, calling him the Hound of the Southern Mountain. He continues the praise, saying everyone knows his fearsome reputation. Blushing, the Baron becomes flustered by the sudden compliment. He then brags that even the barbarians know of his fame and power. But in his thoughts, our protagonist reveals that it was all a complete lie. The Baron then agrees that capturing the Curie group indeed merits a great reward. And with that, our hero successfully gets closer to the local lord to advance his plans. The Baron offers 10 gold coins and a warhorse as a reward. However, he imposes a condition for our protagonist to receive what he's asked for. With a serious look, our protagonist listens intently to the lord's proposal. He reveals that if he wishes to serve him, he must participate in the war alongside the mercenaries. Otto panics, growing desperate at the thought of having to fight in the war. With a confident smile, our protagonist says he was hoping for those exact words. He wonders why he should join the war but knows it's for a greater purpose. His plan is to force a move from Charles, the novel's original protagonist. With his stunning appearance, the original hero emerges as an imposing and powerful figure. His enemies call him the God of Death, terrified by his presence on the battlefield. Our MC must find Charles to reach the Fairy Kingdom and return home. To do that, he has to join the war and capture the original hero's attention. In the local prison, Otto and his men are locked up, awaiting their fate. The mercenary leader begs our protagonist to get them out of the dark cell. Desperately, he yells for our hero to take responsibility for them. With the cub sleeping on his shoulder, our hero calmly states he's only 16 years old. Otto is shocked to learn he was defeated by such a young boy. Annoyed, our MC threatens a mercenary, telling him to shut up with a dark glare. The man argues that if they don't join the battle, they will all be done for. But our protagonist reveals they haven't officially surrendered to the Baron yet. With a smile, he explains that if they join the fight, they'll be spared from execution. Otto falls silent, considering our protagonist's proposal to save them. He then challenges him to a one-on-one duel to decide his men's fate. Our MC is confused by the challenge, trying to recall if such a rule exists. It was a one-on-one duel between knights with everything on the line for the victor. The rules varied, but one was common across all regions and countries. Regardless of status or birth, the stronger combatant always emerged as the winner. The winner takes all, while the loser forfeits everything they've ever achieved. Otto reveals he was once a knight and believes he has a chance if he fights on horseback. Our protagonist remains silent, the cub yawning on his shoulder. He then remembers that in the original story, Otto was just a nameless side character. His presence in this world is starting to alter the story he wrote. With a smile, he concludes he needs Otto alive to drag the group into the war. He then accepts the challenge and makes a counter proposal to the mercenary leader. If he wins, they all join the war. But if Otto wins, they all go free. With a confident smirk, our protagonist accepts the mercenary's challenge. The cub on his shoulder cheers at the decision with a cry of excitement. Otto's men shout, placing their lives and hopes in their captain's hands. Buoyed by his men's cheers, the mercenary leader prepares for the decisive duel. And with the cub on his shoulder, our hero readies himself for another challenge on his journey. 10 days later, the arena is packed for the grand duel between the two. An announcer welcomes the massive crowd to the city's most anticipated event. The crowd roars with excitement, the energy of the impending duel palpable. Baron Bertrand watches from his private box, a serious expression on his face. The announcer calls for applause for the knights, who will fight with everything at stake. He explains that the two knights will charge at one another with their lances. Aboard their steeds, they will furiously advance for a powerful clash. The two warriors, helmets on, face each other, ready for the battle to commence. The rule is simple: they must attack each other with their sharp lances. Whoever unhorses their opponent will be declared the grand winner of the duel. Archers prepare to fire celebratory arrows to signal the start of the duel. As the arrows fly into the sky, the duel is officially announced to the roaring crowd. With a smile, the announcer prepares to introduce the knights. He then shouts for everyone to welcome the two warriors who will battle for victory. Otto the Demon Sword emerges on his horse, lance in hand, ready to fight. The crowd boos him, shouting for him to be taken down, calling him a coward and a traitor. Suddenly, a mysterious woman remarks that he seems to be a rather hated man. A nearby man is startled by her presence and stammers as he tries to explain why. It was the witch Batry Elizabeth, who looks at him with a seductive gaze and a smile. She silences him with a gesture, preparing to watch the duel with keen interest. She then says she only came to see little Attila fight in the arena. The men around her are captivated by the witch's beauty, showering her with praise. The announcer then introduces the next competitor, hailing from the west. He presents Attila, the barbarian warrior who captured the entire mercenary group. On his horse, our protagonist eyes the lance and prepares for the duel. Otto's men shout desperately, pleading for their captain to win the fight. The mercenary leader looks embarrassed by his men's over the top cheering. With a smile, our MC compliments Otto's armor and beckons him to the fight. The mercenary replies that he can only be persuaded for now and gets ready. The announcer then declares the moment the entire crowd has been waiting for. With a grin, he announces the fight between Attila of the Black Wolf tribe, and on the other side, Otto the Demon Sword, leader of the Kyria mercenary group. With a shout, the announcer signals the start of the duel between the two warriors. The commentator thanks everyone for their patience and prepares to narrate the battle. As the red flag drops, the match officially begins in the arena. The two knights charge toward each other, their lances at the ready. With a yell, our protagonist rushes full force at the mercenary leader. Otto is taken aback by the speed and fury of our hero's attack, but a confident smile spreads across his face, believing he can easily win this fight. The battle for freedom and the fate of the mercenaries kicks off with intensity in the arena. Otto charges with a war cry, aiming to strike our protagonist with his lance. He believes that the reach of his lance guarantees him the victory. But our MC meets his charge with a serious gaze, preparing to counterattack. In a swift move, he catches the opponent's lance with his bare hands. Otto is left completely stunned and speechless by our hero's action. The crowd gasps in horror, seeing him catch the lance with his own hands. With a confident smirk, our protagonist says he's going to return the blow with interest. The mercenary leader panics at the display of his opponent's strength and skill. A system screen appears revealing that the lance mastery skill has been activated. With Otto's lance now in his grasp, he charges and delivers a powerful strike against him. The mercenary is terrified by the attack and has no time to dodge. The blow hits him squarely, knocking him from his horse with immense force. He cries out in pain from the impact, spitting as he is defeated in the duel. Lying on the ground, Otto looks up at our victorious protagonist on his horse. The witch Beatrix Elizabeth chuckles at the scene and our hero's crushing victory. With a smile, she remarks that he's a truly wild and crazy warrior. Lance in hand, our protagonist declares the end of the duel's first round. But he readies himself for the second round, looking down at the mercenary leader. Suddenly, Otto feels a sharp pain and realizes he is severely injured. He panics as he sees the bleeding and understands the gravity of his wound. The second round begins, and the two prepare for their final confrontation in the arena. With a determined look, our protagonist declares he's going to end this now. He then charges with his lance, ready to knock his opponent off his horse. The two knights gallop toward each other, their weapons poised to clash. Otto's men scream in terror at our hero's speed and power. But suddenly, our protagonist's lance shatters mid-charge. Otto is shocked at first, but then realizes this is his chance to win the duel. The witch Beatrix Elizabeth snaps her fingers, using her magic to sabotage the fight. With a smile, she observes the outcome of her spell in the arena. Her magic creates a shockwave that ripples through everyone present. The crowd panics at the supernatural event unfolding in the arena. Our protagonist and Otto's faces contort under the force of the witch's magic. Our protagonist's horse is spooked by the magic and begins to neigh uncontrollably. The announcer and the crowd are bewildered, with no idea what is happening. The horse thrashes about, and our MC wonders what's gotten into the animal. He then senses a trace of magic, wondering if a magic user is present. The witch watches him from the crowd with a curious look and a smile. Otto's men scream in terror as they see our hero's horse go wild. With the horse out of control, Otto sees his opportunity to win and prepares to attack. This unexpected twist makes the battle in the arena even more unpredictable and dangerous. Otto charges with his lance, but our protagonist narrowly dodges the attack. Annoyed at missing, he prepares to strike again with his lance. With a sly grin, our protagonist says he just had a brilliant idea. Without warning, he throws his lance into the air and leaps from his out-of-control horse. Otto is completely bewildered by his opponent's sudden and bizarre move. Our MC then jumps onto the mercenary leader's horse, surprising everyone in the arena. With a smile, he wraps his arm around the villain from behind in a tight chokehold. The crowd goes absolutely wild, seeing him leap onto his opponent's horse. The announcer shouts in disbelief, wondering if such a move is even allowed in the rules. Baron Bertrand simply watches the scene, a look of surprise on his face. With the villain in his grasp, our hero declares the second round his. The horse then rears up, throwing both knights into the air with great force. The horse neighs wildly, and our protagonist complains that this is happening again. He then forcefully shoves Otto away to rid himself of the extra weight. The mercenary leader slams violently into the ground, crying out in pain. His men scream in terror as they see the out-of-control horse charging toward them. They realize Attila's horse is now heading for their fallen captain. The witch Beatrix Elizabeth observes the chaos with a curious look and a smile. With the situation spiraling out of control, the battle in the arena descends into further chaos. The fate of the mercenaries and the outcome of the duel now hang in suspense. With his opponent down, our protagonist observes the scene with a serious expression. With a powerful shout, he orders the rampaging horse to stop its fury at once. The animal is startled by the command and freezes in its tracks with a look of panic. Now calm, the horse bolts away, leaving the arena in complete silence. Otto's men are stunned by the scene and our hero's incredible skill. The witch Beatrix Elizabeth watches it all unfold with a satisfied smile. Holding his broken lance, our protagonist prepares for the duel's conclusion. He approaches Otto, who is still on the ground, for the final round of the battle. The mercenary leader struggles to his feet, facing our hero with a defiant glare. With a smile, Attila extends a hand, inviting him to the third round. Otto accepts the handshake and rises for the last confrontation between them. The announcer then proclaims the proud duel in the decisive final round. The witch smiles, realizing our protagonist had noticed her little magical trick. The commentator apologizes for the interruption and announces they will now fight on foot. The battle will now be no holds barred, with any weapon they choose to use. With a grand gesture, the announcer signals the start of the final battle. Otto advances with his sword, and our hero prepares to counter with his axe. The two warriors meet in the center of the arena for their last clash. With this final battle, the destiny of the mercenaries will be decided once and for all. The crowd erupts as the final round of the epic duel begins. Otto thinks to himself that our hero's attacks are heavy, each blow massive. But he believes if he can just dodge the first strike, he'll have a chance. With a shout, our protagonist leaps and brings his axe down in a powerful arc. Otto prepares to sidestep the attack but is shocked by his incredible speed. The blow smashes in the ground, creating a crater, but the mercenary leader manages to escape. He believes that by dodging, he has created an opening and that victory is his. But our MC calls him Dave and is already preparing his next move. In a surprising twist, he strikes Otto squarely in the chest with the handle of his axe. His face covered, the mercenary realizes his opponent is no mere human. Lying on the ground, he stares up at the dark, imposing figure of our protagonist. His men cry out their captain's name, desperate at the scene in the arena. But a guard mercilessly orders them to sit down and be quiet. Even injured, Otto gets back up, a dagger in hand, ready to continue the fight. His men plead with him to stop, unable to bear watching him take any more punishment. One of them shouts that if it will save his life, they'll gladly join the war. With tears in his eyes, he says their captain can't be taken down in a place like this. Otto is moved by his men's words, even as they stand with their hands bound. His face bloodied, he remarks that they're still talking big for a group of losers. And with that final taunt, the battle in the arena reaches its ultimate climax. The fate of Otto and his men now rests in our hero's hands. His strength gone, Otto drops his dagger to the ground, conceding the fight. With his axe slung over his back, our protagonist watches his defeated opponent. The announcer then declares that Otto is unable to continue the duel. With the raising of the white flag, the commentator proclaims Attila as the grand victor. Our protagonist then walks over to the mercenary, who is still on the arena floor. He helps him to his feet and carries him on his shoulders off the battlefield. With a smile, he says that Otto is no longer a nameless side character in this story. He then acknowledges him as Otto, a respectable warrior and a worthy opponent. His men weep with emotion, seeing their captain recognized as a hero. Baron Bertram watches the scene with an expression of admiration for our protagonist. The crowd goes wild, celebrating the victory and our hero's noble conduct. The witch Batry Elizabeth smiles at the scene and her little Attila's triumph. The cub runs out to celebrate with its friend as the crowd's cheers continue. As the sun sets, the Curie mercenary group officially joins Bertrand's army. That night, everyone celebrates the victory and the new beginning for the mercenary group. They toast with their mugs, celebrating the chance to fight in the coming war. Otto then announces that the food and drinks are on our protagonist. The mercenaries cheer and demand more food from the waiter, who rushes to serve them. Our MC is surprised by how quickly the men recovered after the fight. With a grin, Otto says that a true swordsman admits defeat with grace. Otto begs for a drink, but our hero forbids it due to his injuries. The other mercenaries have to hold back their captain, who continues to plead for a beer. 2 weeks later, our protagonist observes Otto recovering well from the duel. The waiter approaches and greets him while he enjoys a meat skewer. With a smile, he mentions hearing they'll be joining the war against Aquitaine. Our MC is surprised and asks where he heard that classified information. The man replies that one of the mercenaries accidentally mentioned it during the party. Suddenly, our protagonist cuts him off, telling him not to move a single inch. The waiter is startled and asks what's gotten into him to act so suddenly. With a serious gaze, our protagonist reveals that he is not the real owner of the bar. He explains that the man has no scent at all, like a lifeless doll. And it's strange that a bar owner who serves drinks wouldn't carry their scent. With a glowing eye, the man reveals his dark and mysterious true identity. Our protagonist demands to know who, or what, he is as the man transforms before him. It was a masked warrior who compliments our hero for seeing through his disguise. But he adds that it doesn't matter, as he'll be sent to the next world regardless. With a flaming weapon, he lunges, attacking our protagonist with a swift strike. Our hero narrowly dodges the attack, which shatters the bar's chandelier. The battle against the mysterious masked warrior erupts within the establishment. And with this new enemy, our hero's journey becomes even more perilous and uncertain. As the chandelier crashes down, the bar is plunged into complete darkness, causing panic. Otto screams in fear, and our protagonist tells him to calm down and stay quiet. But the mercenary yells back that he can't possibly calm down with an assassin lurking in the dark. Suddenly, the masked warrior appears and tries to strike Otto from behind with his sword. Our MC saves him by shoving him aside, narrowly avoiding the enemy's fatal blow. He then orders him to stay in the corner and not to scream, so as not to interfere with the fight. Our protagonist deduces that the enemy is an assassin who specializes in disguises. He confronts him, asking if he's an assassin, but the masked man remains silent. Based on his strength, our hero reveals his identity: Rashid, the second-rank assassin. The masked warrior is taken aback by the revelation and our protagonist's astuteness. With a smirk, our MC asks if he's correct about his true identity. The assassin demands to know where he heard that, but our hero threatens him with his weapon. He then promises that if he tells the truth, he'll give him a painless end. Our protagonist forcefully smashes a piece of the table with the hilt of his sword. He asks if the assassin can replicate that feat with just the hilt of his sword. The masked man then uses an ability, launching a volley of needles in his direction. But our hero manages to dodge them all and shatter the blade of the enemy's sword. With the broken tip of the blade in hand, he prepares for the final blow against the assassin. With a swift and precise motion, he throws the tip, and it strikes the mask squarely. The blow shatters the enemy's mask, revealing his face and true identity. With his mask broken, the assassin stares at our protagonist in surprise. He asks how our hero managed to read his movements in total darkness. Our protagonist reveals that he could smell hashish coming from his weapons. The assassin is shocked by this revelation and his incredible perception. Our MC explains that while the scent was faint, it was present on his hidden weapons. The man then realizes he read his movements just by the scent of the substance. Defeated, he kneels on the ground, admitting he lost the battle fair and square. But before surrendering, he prepares to take his own life with his dagger. Our protagonist stops him, asking about the whereabouts of his son, Cassip. The assassin is shocked, wondering how he could possibly know his son's name. With a smile, our MC says he can't divulge that information. Cassip is Rashid's beloved son and a future powerful ally of Charles in the novel. To protect the original story, he has no intention of harming the boy. Desperate, the father begs him not to harm his son, saying he'll do anything. Our protagonist then imposes a single condition to spare his son's life. With a dark look and a sinister smile, he orders the assassin to become his dog. The man is left completely shocked and speechless by our hero's proposal. And with this unexpected alliance, our protagonist's journey takes a new direction. The war looms ever closer and new challenges await our hero. The future of this world rests in his hands, and he will do anything to protect it. Our protagonist clarifies that he just needs to obey his orders in silence. The assassin agrees, stating that a warrior's contract is absolute and unbreakable. With a smile, our MC says he'll be in touch later and leaves him at the bar. But the man then barks like a dog, leaving our hero completely bewildered. He tells him he doesn't actually need him to imitate a dog, and the assassin nods. Otto screams, startled by the noise, and asks what that terrifying sound was. The witch Patron Elizabeth observes the scene, wondering what on earth they are doing. She questions if it's some kind of ritual and if a god like that even exists in this world. But she shrugs it off, saying that with more allies, she's eager to see what happens next. As time passes, spring gives way to the intense heat of summer. We see our protagonist and the mercenaries training relentlessly for the coming war. Horses thunder across the battlefield, signaling the start of the great conflict. An entire city is engulfed in flames as the war finally begins with widespread destruction. The Golden Lion mercenary group arrives, led by Charles, the original hero. The enemy army prepares for battle, their spears and armor ready. Red banners rise on the battlefield, marking the beginning of the war. The cavalry charges with swords drawn, ready for a bloody confrontation. One of the leaders shouts to cut down every coward in the enemy army. With a war cry, the commander orders them to show their strength. The battle for the fate of the kingdoms erupts on the fields of war. Suddenly, a flying axe takes out the enemy army's commander. The soldiers cry out in terror, seeing their leader defeated so easily. They wonder where the axe came from and brace for a surprise attack. In the distance, they spot a lone figure riding furiously toward them. They wonder if it's the enemy army but realize it's just a single person. Terrified, they shout that one man is charging alone against their entire force. It was Otto on his horse, yelling at the foolish animal to stop its uncontrolled run. The soldiers are frozen in fear at the bizarre scene unfolding before them. He then creates a shockwave, knocking down several soldiers with his power. Amidst the chaos, our protagonist appears and joins the battle with his axe. He remarks that this is a bit different from the plan, but it can't be helped now. With his axe in hand, he defeats several soldiers with swift and brutal strikes. The enemies call him a demon, terrified by his strength and skill in combat. One of them shouts to retreat, but it's too late to escape from our hero. With a smile, he says he won't let them get away and prepares to attack. With a piece of wood in hand, he gets ready to use a new ability. A system screen appears, activating his spear-throwing ability. He then hurls the piece of wood with incredible force, eliminating more enemies. The battle rages on, and our protagonist showcases his full power on the battlefield. And with this display of strength, the tide of the war is about to turn. With a war cry, our protagonist charges forward, weapon in hand. He then throws several swords into the air, which fly toward the enemies. The volley strikes the soldiers' horses, sending them crashing to the ground. The attack eliminates multiple soldiers at once, demonstrating our hero's power. The enemy cavalry is completely decimated by the protagonist's surprise assault. With the cub on his shoulder, he continues his ride, searching for more enemies. Otto yells for him not to go alone, but our MC is already too far away to hear. The mercenaries are shocked to see he's already deep in the fight. The enemy soldiers recognize Otto and prepare to engage him in battle. With a determined look, our protagonist readies himself for another intense fight. The Kiri mercenary group advances swiftly under our hero's command. Each member fulfills their role, preparing for the impending confrontation. In a crowded church, Count Acolyte conducts a knighting ceremony. He bestows upon Charles the title of knight in a solemn and important ritual. With the sword on his shoulders, he tasks the young man with guarding the truth and protecting the people. The noble ladies sigh at the beauty of the new knight, who is only 16 years old. But some nobles look down on him, a commoner, for becoming a knight. One of them scoffs that he's just a stand-in for a true knight. Suddenly, someone taps him on the shoulder, and the man turns to see who it is. The ceremony continues, with the future of the kingdom now resting on the new knight's shoulders. It was Ruach, captain of the Golden Lion Mercenary Group's Special Attack Unit. He states that speaking ill of Charles is an even greater offense and glares at the noble. The man sputters, wondering who this ill-mannered person is that interrupted him. Suddenly, Pippin, the group's vice-captain, appears and apologizes for the incident. He introduces himself as the vice-captain of the Golden Lion Mercenary Group. The noble asks how he knows his name, but Pippin dismisses it as irrelevant. With a smile, he reveals they verified the names of everyone attending the ceremony. The man is shocked to learn they memorized over 500 names. He dismisses it as a bluff, believing people of low birth are hopeless. Pippin apologizes for the inconvenience and prepares to leave. But the noble stops him, asking if he thinks he can defy a nobleman. With a serious expression, the vice-captain stares him down without saying a word. He then warns him about insulting Charles, who is now a renowned knight. He explains that baseless insults against a knight are an illegal and punishable act. With a dark smile, Pippin threatens the noble, assuring him he won't get away with it. The man cries out in fear at the threat and the vice-captain's intimidating presence. Angrily, he calls him a troublemaker and orders him to leave immediately. That night, Pippin is in the forest when a glowing firefly lands on his arm. He observes the insect preparing to receive an important message. The journey to war continues and new allies join Charles's cause. Pippin is impressed by the insect, capable of flying at 80 kilometers per hour. He then bids it farewell, stating that tomorrow they head to the battlefield. Charles asks what happened, but the vice captain says it was just an insect. With a smile, the original hero tells him to let the idle fools talk. He then declares his intention to acquire the nation, allowing no one to disrespect him. Pippin agrees, calling it a promise between the two companions. Charles confirms the promise with a look of pure determination and confidence. The vice captain then reveals he received information about a very strong mercenary. He says the man is said to be as strong as Charles himself, the original hero. The knight is surprised by the comparison and the existence of such a warrior. With a smile, he says he can't wait to meet him on the battlefield. Otto asks if our protagonist can see the sky dungeon, but he says no. Our protagonist says he can't, but Otto and his men celebrate regardless. He then remarks that for a former bandit, Otto is surprisingly faithful and loyal. Our MC then reveals that the heavens are not on their side in the slightest. With the help of a spy insect, he observes the entire battlefield. He explains that he simply understands the flow of battle and acts accordingly. His goal is to not alter the original flow, so Charles can discover the fairy kingdom. Suddenly, the sky darkens and Otto cries out, startled by the abrupt change. The war rages on and new challenges approach with the encroaching darkness. Our protagonist is impressed by the eclipse, wondering if it's a bad omen. He realizes he never wrote a scene like this in his original work. Suddenly, Rashid appears, informing him that the Golden Lion group will split up in 5 days. Hearing this, our MC realizes that Charles is finally making his move. He thanks the assassin and tells him to keep up the good work. Bleeda was supposed to join the war, but his defeat left the army undermanned. This means the battle between the kingdoms will end before Charles can discover the fairy kingdom. Our protagonist calls for Otto and the mercenary asks what he needs. With a determined look, he says he cannot allow the story to be distorted. He then announces they are going to attack the Golden Lion mercenary group. Otto panics, desperate at the thought of having to face Charles's group. Our MC confirms and Otto reminds him the group has over 100 members. He adds that their leader, Charles, is a dangerous man, as strong as our hero. But Attila simply asks if he's not going, and the mercenary remembers his oath. With no other choice, he shouts that he's in, and our protagonist tells him to get ready. Otto says the preparations will take at least 10 days to complete. He lists everything they need: armor, food, and weapon acquisition. But our hero cuts him off, stating they will leave for battle immediately. The war is about to become even more intense due to the protagonist's bold plan. And with this decision, the fate of the novel's world is about to change forever. Otto is completely baffled, asking what "go to battle immediately" even means. With a smile, our protagonist explains that the 3X knights himself and Otto will be the ones to go. Hearing this, the mercenary lets out a scream of pure, unadulterated despair. 5 days later, on the southern front line, the battlefield is in absolute chaos. Amidst the fighting, a knight and his soldiers stare ahead with looks of fear. He complains that he wasn't told anything about what was happening here. A soldier shouts that it's the Black Wolf tribe, reinforcing Gasconu's enemy army. The two armies then face off in the middle of the battlefield, ready to clash. Without hesitation, a tribe member charges and brutally attacks a knight. The warrior continues his furious assault, and the soldier screams from the violent blow. Soon, the battlefield is covered with the bodies of the defeated knights. The scene then shifts to the command tent of the Golden Lion mercenary group. Inside, Charles reveals that the Black Wolf tribe appeared on the southern front that day. One of his men is shocked, asking if the tribe has allied with their enemy. The original hero confirms, adding that they are rapidly expanding their influence. But he sees this as an opportunity to earn a significant military distinction. With that, he changes his unit's destination, ordering them to the front line. His soldiers obey, shouting in unison as they accept their leader's new command. A female soldier approaches, reporting that the first unit is ready to depart. Charles thanks her and says he will leave the second unit under her command. With a determined stance, the original hero orders the first unit to advance into battle. He then turns to Pippin with a smile, asking him not to get taken down in the fight. The vice captain retorts, telling him not to even mention things that are certain not to happen. Ruak agrees, saying that worrying about the vice captain is completely unnecessary. Charles then asks the big man to protect him, and Ruak confirms he can count on him. With a determined look, the original hero declares they will achieve distinction and rise in the country. All his soldiers are energized by his speech, shouting in celebration and support. With that, Charles's unit marches off to battle under the cover of night. Pippin then turns to his men, announcing they too will now advance into battle. The second unit moves forward, but the vice captain senses something amiss and halts. Suddenly, our protagonist appears out of nowhere, launching a surprise attack. With a sinister smile, Attila shouts that he has finally found his target. The vice captain is completely shocked, crying out in surprise at the sudden assault. Though caught off guard, he prepares to counter our protagonist's blow with full force. The scene flashes back 5 days, showing the eclipse in the sky. Otto questions if they really think they can attack the Golden Lion with just 5 knights. Our MC replies that to change the course of the war, they must reduce the enemy's military strength. With the cub on his shoulder, he continues to sharpen his axe, preparing for the fight. He reveals that their only chance is now, while Charles is away. The blow lands true, and Pippin cries out as a soldier shouts a warning of the surprise attack. The impact sends the vice captain flying backward with overwhelming force. With a smirk, Attila tells the vice captain to behave and stay down. But he's immediately surrounded by the other soldiers of the unit, who glare at him with rage. From their hiding spot, Otto and his men worry, one suggesting they go help our protagonist. The mercenary shouts back that if they reveal themselves, the plan will be ruined, confusing the others. He explains that the plan was simply to let our protagonist fight while they observe. Meanwhile, Attila realizes the original plan was just to attack Pippin and retreat. But he sees things won't be that easy now that he's surrounded by so many enemies. The soldiers then charge with all their might, and our hero braces for the fight. Making an impressive leap, our protagonist spins with his axe in a powerful strike. With a single move, he brutally takes down several soldiers at once. Unfazed, he faces the remaining enemies who continue to charge at him furiously. 3 soldiers attack him simultaneously, but he manages to block the triple assault. Our protagonist then vaults over them, attacking from a blind spot in mid-air. His body glowing, he channels a massive amount of energy into his powerful fist. With a confident smile, Attila prepares to unleash a devastating blow upon the ground. He then slams his fist into the earth, releasing a shockwave of pure, stored energy. The explosion is so powerful it kicks up a cloud of dust and destroys everything around it. Terrified, Otto stammers that everything went exactly according to their plan. The attack creates a giant crater, sending soldiers flying from the force of the impact. Pippin laments the situation as Rurik prepares to protect him with his massive shield. The warrior declares that protecting the vice captain is a promise he made to their leader, Charles. With wide eyes, Pippin calls out the name of his comrade Ruak. The captain of the assault unit turns and vows to protect him at all costs. In a flashback, he remembers the family that taught him about protection and unity. With his shield in hand, he understands that family is something one must always protect. With overwhelming fury in his eyes, he braces for the coming battle. Releasing a bluish aura, he positions himself to defend his companions from harm. Facing our protagonist, he declares himself the shield that will protect them all. Impressed by the scene, our protagonist praises the warrior's stance, calling it incredible. Rook then asks if he is the infamous massacre man he's heard so much about. With a grin, our MC confirms, saying he's starting to be called by that name. The assault unit captain introduces himself, his shield glowing with a bluish energy. With a determined look, he declares he will undoubtedly defeat our protagonist. Attila just smiles at the challenge, his body glowing with an intense fairy aura. The warrior then lets out a deafening roar, unleashing all his power at once. He charges forward, preparing a devastating blow with his shield aimed at our MC. The blow smashes into the ground, but our protagonist manages to dodge at the last second. Without missing a beat, he leaps into the air, spinning with his flaming axe ready to attack. With his axe in hand, he prepares to deliver the final blow against his opponent. With the flaming axe, our protagonist lands a direct hit on his opponent's shield. The impact is so forceful that the assault unit captain spits from the pain. Desperate, the vice captain shouts his companion's name as he witnesses the brutal scene. The blow sends the warrior flying backward, leaving him severely injured. With a smile on his face, our protagonist says that should be more than enough. Shocked, Pippin stares at our protagonist and the lifeless body of Ruak on the ground. He then realizes this man is as strong as the original hero, Charles himself. Gritting his teeth, he concludes that our MC might actually be even stronger. He now understands that Attila will be a major obstacle for the Golden Lion group. At that moment, our protagonist turns to face the vice captain with a serious expression. Without hesitation, the vice captain begins furiously shouting orders to his soldiers. He yells for the defense force to form a shield wall immediately. The soldiers obey, gathering around him to create the defensive formation. Seeing this, Otto is completely shocked and cries out in surprise at the strategy. With a smile, our protagonist compliments Pippin's ability to command 100 soldiers. With their leader's command, the soldiers' falling morale instantly soars. The vice captain then orders the archers to prepare to fire their arrows. With a war cry, he points forward and commands them to shoot with everything they've got. He then yells for the garrison to form another shield wall for defense. The spearmen obey, forming a strong, impenetrable wall of shields. Seeing the formation, Otto worriedly asks if this isn't dangerous for their boss. But our protagonist smiles, recognizing the enemy tactic as a shield phalanx. The tactic involves soldiers overlapping their shields and advancing as a single unit. Although a simple strategy, it allows them to defend everyone simultaneously. Using the same tactic, they can also attack all at once without lowering their guard. This is the strongest tactic against a formed enemy on the battlefield. Suddenly, Otto screams in terror as the formation heads directly toward them. At this, Attila looks back and tells his men to raise their shields for protection. A system screen then appears, activating his tactic detection ability. With a grin, he warns everyone that a shower of arrows is about to rain down on them. And just as predicted, a volley of arrows descends from the sky toward the shield wall. Our protagonist then creates a magical shield to protect himself from the enemy attack. Otto is shocked, shouting that the arrows are indeed falling, just as their boss said. One of the men is startled by the size of the arrows, which look like actual spears. A giant arrow explodes on the ground, and Otto's men scream in fear at the sight. With his men on his back, our MC runs, yelling for them to hold on tight. He considers retreating but sees no opening to escape with the enemy archers. Annoyed, our protagonist tells everyone to get down, and they ask if he's abandoning them. He then throws them to the ground, saying it's nothing like that as his hand glows. With a confident smile, the protagonist turns and declares he will stop their attack. Pippin furiously shouts not to let him escape and orders the archers to fire to bring him down. With that, a volley of arrows flies through the sky toward our protagonist. But fearlessly, he runs directly into the approaching storm of arrows. Seeing this, Otto and his men scream in terror as the arrows head toward their boss. With his flaming axe, he spins the weapon, creating a barrier to defend against the attack. The energy barrier successfully deflects all the arrows flying in his direction. With a determined gaze, our protagonist faces his opponents without taking a single step back. In a swift motion, he manages to snatch one of the arrows from the air with his hand. He then grips the arrow, preparing to use it as a weapon against his enemies. With the arrow in hand, he runs at an incredible speed toward the soldiers. The vice captain and his men watch as our hero leaps high into the air. Shocked, Pippin shouts that he dodged 100 arrows and is still advancing. Terrified, he wonders what kind of creature he is facing. With a smile on his face, our protagonist confidently looks down at the vice captain. The vice captain is stunned to realize the protagonist was actually laughing at the situation. With a war cry, our MC charges forward for his next attack with his axe. He then hurls his axe, which spins through the air like a boomerang toward his enemies. The weapon flies at high speed, powerfully cutting through the air and anything in its path. The axe strikes the archers directly, giving them no chance to dodge. Witnessing the brutal scene, Otto and his men cry out in terror at their boss's strength. Pippin and his men scream in fear as they see the axe hurtling toward them. After throwing the weapon, our protagonist simply observes the result of his attack. With his hand glowing, he summons the axe back with a quick and precise motion. He then catches his weapon, preparing for the final blow against the vice captain. Pippin laments that his formation, perfected over so many years, was so easily broken. He despairs, realizing a single thrown axe had destroyed everything. Lying on the ground, he calls out Charles's name, apologizing for his imminent defeat. In his thoughts, he says his farewells, knowing his journey ends here. With his flaming axe, our protagonist prepares to deliver the finishing blow. The vice captain simply closes his eyes, accepting his final fate in the battle. But our protagonist compliments him, saying it was a very enjoyable fight. He then turns and prepares to leave, leaving Pippin and his men behind. The vice captain is shocked, watching our protagonist walk away from the battlefield. Filled with rage, he screams, lamenting the humiliating defeat he just suffered. Far away, our MC and his men flee on horseback, distancing themselves from the battle's chaos. Otto complains, saying he thought he was going to be taken down in that fight. He then demands that their boss carry them from now on after all that danger. Our protagonist then announces he will be starting their training over from scratch. Suddenly, he hears a strange sound and halts his horse to investigate. A mysterious bird lands on his arm, carrying an important message. He takes the note, realizing it's from the assassin Rashid, who is watching from a distance. Upon reading the note, our protagonist is left completely shocked and furious. He abruptly turns his horse and his men cry out, confused by his sudden action. He then gallops off at high speed, with Otto shouting after him, asking where he's going in such a rush. The scene then shifts to the Black Wolf tribe's camp at night, under the moonlight. Inside, Charles, the original hero, faces a tribe warrior with his flaming sword. Back with our MC, he continues to ride desperately through the dark forest without stopping. The note warned that Charles was going after Chief Munzuk and urged him to get there immediately. With this information, our protagonist rides with all his strength to arrive in time to help. He wonders why the tribe is on a battlefield, as he never wrote such a thing in his novel. In that moment, he remembers his father, the tribe chief, smiling at him with great pride. He also recalls the happy moments he spent with his father at the camp. His face filled with rage, he shouts, lamenting this unexpected deviation from the original story. He then spurs his horse even faster, yelling with all his might for it to go faster. With his heart pounding, he vows to save his father, no matter what happens in the battle. Screaming desperately, he pleads for his father to wait for him on the battlefield. In his thoughts, he cries out his father's name, terrified of losing him forever. The scene returns to the Black Wolf tribe's camp, which is under enemy attack. With his foot on a warrior's chest, Charles demands an immediate answer. He asks if the man knows a barbarian warrior who wields a giant axe. Terrified, the tribe warrior denies it, saying he knows no one matching that description. With his glowing sword, Charles laments that this is a real shame. The villager then screams desperately, begging the original hero to wait. But Charles looks at him with contempt, telling the man not to make him laugh. He then declares that the barbarian tribe is, first and foremost, an enemy of Aquitaine. His soldiers then shout in unison, agreeing with their leader's words. The night continues, stating they launched a surprise attack and took down his comrades. Filled with rage, the other soldiers roar in support of their commander's words. With his sword in hand, he shouts that he won't leave a single enemy alive to tell the tale. But suddenly, a mysterious voice orders him to stop, and he turns to see who it is. With a surprised look, he remarks that he didn't expect this person to come to him. It was Chief Munzuk, who appears with an imposing aura and a look of pure fury. The legendary warrior known as the martial god faces the original hero without fear. Charles knows that a brute force attack always leaves an opening for a counter. The two then charge at each other, and the original hero cries out in surprise. With a determined look, the tribe chief prepares for the devastating blow to come. The knight manages to block the strike, but is startled by the attack's incredible speed. With a smirk, the chief calls him an amateur for blocking with the flat of his sword. Without missing a beat, he readies a powerful punch, his fist glowing with flames. The original hero is completely shocked by the chief's swift and unexpected move. The tribe chief's punch slams into Charles's armor with crushing force. Up close, we see Munzuk's fist sink into the original hero's chest on impact. The blow sends the knight flying backward, and he cries out from the violent attack. Without wasting a moment, the tribe chief spins with his axe for the next move in the fight. He is then surprised to see the hero manage to block his attack a second time. Though injured, the knight kneels, catching his breath as his sword glows, but the tribe chief stumps hard on the ground, preparing to attack once more. Making an impressive leap, he charges from above with a devastating downward strike. The original hero simply looks up at him, a look of pure determination on his face. Calling him an amateur, the chief brings his axe down with all his might. However, the knight manages to counter, and the clash of their weapons creates a massive explosion. Charles' strike lands true, inflicting a serious wound on the tribe chief's chest. The tribe leader is completely shocked to realize he's been hit by the attack. Up close, the damage from the sword's cut on the legendary warrior's body is clear. With a smile, the original hero says he'd be happy to do that again. He then raises his gleaming sword, preparing for the next blow in the battle. At that level, up screens appear, and he remarks that the more he fights, the stronger he becomes. The tribe chief watches from a distance, sensing the shift in his opponent's aura. He notes that the speed and pressure from his blade have suddenly skyrocketed. With a grin, he says this will keep him entertained and prepares to fight seriously. The original hero is shocked by his opponent's display of power. With his axe, the tribe chief creates a shockwave that shatters the ground. But Charles leaps back, launching a wave of energy from his sword. Landing, he wonders in surprise if that was a vacuum blade. Without pause, Manzuk attacks again with an arc of red energy. However, the knight manages to leap over the blow, narrowly escaping. The tribe chief then compliments him for reading his move perfectly. He then asks what the blonde man thinks of his next triple attack. Charles is terrified to realize a triple attack is heading straight for him. The blows strike the ground, creating a gigantic explosion of earth and rock. After the attack, the tribe chief stands still, his axe in hand. He then surveys the result of his devastating attack on the battlefield. He thinks that besides Attila, there's someone else who can dodge his strikes. Suddenly, the original hero's sword glows with an intense bluish aura. The tribe chief is completely shocked, wondering what he's witnessing. Charles emerges in a new form, his eyes glowing with immense power. Munzuk can't believe the hero managed to block all three of his attacks at once. With a smile, the knight announces it's now his turn to attack with full force. He then charges with his fist glowing purple, ready for the final blow. The tribe chief is horrified by the sight, thinking it's impossible. With his glowing sword, the original hero lunges with a slash of bluish energy. The energy arc flies with incredible speed toward the tribe chief. The blow lands squarely, and Munzuk cries out from the violent impact of the enemy attack. With his opponent defeated, the knight observes the chief's body lying on the ground. He then declares the chief has lost and demands to know where the massacre man is. With a grin, the tribe leader begins to laugh, confusing the hero. Annoyed, Charles asks what's so funny about the situation at the camp. The chief then points behind him, telling the knight to look at what's coming. The original hero turns and is shocked by the scene before him. Our protagonist appears, saying he barely made it in time to save the day. With a look of pure fury, he yells at the knight to get away from Chief Munzuk. The original hero faces him, recognizing him as the infamous massacre man. With his sword in hand, he threatens that if he doesn't back down, he will attack. But with a defiant smile, our MC calls him to the fight without hesitation. The clash of the two warriors' weapons creates an explosion of fire and ice. The two then trade blows with their weapons at an impressive speed. The battle intensifies as their auras of fire and ice collide with great force. In his thoughts, Attila realizes his opponent leveled up from fighting Munzuk. Suddenly, he feels a headache and his shoulders begin to split. At that, a system screen appears, announcing the activation of the Author Protection Program. With a face full of rage, he glares at the system screen glowing around him. The system screen then announces his second authority, the Mind's Eye.